Welcome. This is Sarah Gilbert from Transitions Therapy LLC, coming to you today from lovely Manchester, Connecticut, where my office is. It's kind of a gloomy day today here, Tuesday afternoon, but I wanted to hop on and share a little bit of information that hopefully is helpful to you as things such as sex and gender. One of the specialties in my practice is in working with transgender, gender nonconforming, gender variant individuals and their loved ones. So what I wanted to do today was share a video to give you a little bit of information about just some basic terms so that you can be a little better educated and aware of some of these things that people experience. So the main thing that comes up a lot, that a lot of people get tripped up on, is the differences between sex and gender. And so that's where I thought I'd start today, because that's really important. A lot of times these two terms get used interchangeably nowadays, and they are in fact two totally separate things. So to help you out, sex is, I refer to that, I think of that as biological. Sex is referring to our biological differences based on our reproductive anatomy. So obviously when a newborn baby arrives, it's identified right away, but whether it's being identified as a boy or a girl by its external genitalia. So sex is something that is assigned typically at birth, whereas gender is completely different. Gender is something that is much more subjective. It's someone's inner experience, someone's sense of themselves. Someone's inner experience of being male or female, or perhaps somewhere in between, or perhaps an identity that changes over time. Some people are gender fluid, meaning that some days they might feel a little more masculine, and some days they might feel a little more feminine. So a simple way to kind of keep the two terms separate in your mind to help you clarify is that sex relates to kind of outer characteristics that identify someone, whereas gender is an inner experience. Some people also identify gender by the social constructs that are part of that. So just to give you an idea of social constructs of gender, you know, things such as little kids' toys, right? It is expected that little girls are playing with things like Barbie dolls, whereas for little boys, toys like Tonka trucks, G.I. Joes, those are considered boy toys. So that would be a way in which gender is manifested through those things. So as you can see, as I'm giving that example of kids' toys, the whole idea of gender is perpetuated and reinforced in society really early on. If you think about it, when a woman discloses that she's pregnant, one of the first questions typically is, oh, what are you having? Are you having a girl or a boy? So that just kind of goes to show you how early on this whole idea of gender just really enters into someone's life and their story. So sex and gender, those are the two differences there. And in the work that I do, a lot of work I do is helping people get clear on their gender identities, which again, that is their inner experience, which may or may not match with their outward appearances. If someone identifies as transgender, typically what that means is that their inner experience of their gender is markedly different from their outer presentation, the way that people identify them, which typically falls into the binary of either male or female, even though in reality there's a huge spectrum of a lot of things in between that, but society right now, typically by and large, we view people as either male or female. So someone who is transgender, their inner experience of their gender does not match that outward appearance. So along those lines, a few other things I wanted to talk to you about today, beyond sex and gender identity, are the ideas of gender roles, which can be fluid and change over time. So for example, several decades back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, for example, it was a very very strong gender role for women to be homemakers, to be stay-at-home moms, to be caretakers, whereas the men would be out working and supporting families. So these were roles that people were expected to fit into based on their gender. And welcome to whoever's joined. Hi, thanks for checking out this video. So we're just talking a little bit about gender roles, and although, you know, in today's times, 2017, a lot of changes have happened. There's a lot more things that are open to women and men that haven't been open. We're still fighting some gender stereotypes, right? There are still things that might stand out to people as being unusual. For example, you know, when a woman is running for president, for example, that's noteworthy, right? If a woman is a CEO of a large company, that is noteworthy. There are certain industries that are still typically male-dominated. So these gender roles, although they have changed dramatically over time, they still persist in our society. So we've talked about, just recapping, we've talked about the differences between sex and gender. We talked about gender identity and gender roles. The other thing I want to talk to you about today is gender expression. This comes up a lot in the work that I do with transgender or gender non-conforming individuals. Your gender expression is the outward manifestations of your gender identity. So, for example, you know, me today, right? I have, a short haircut, more feminine haircut than perhaps you might see on a male. I'm wearing earrings. Earrings are typically associated as being more feminine, especially, you know, if someone has both. I'm wearing feminine clothing. These are all parts of my gender expression. Other things could be the way people style their hair, the types of clothes they wear, jewelry. These are all things that contribute to one's gender expression. So it's the outward expression of someone's gender identity. That's what that means. And then the very last thing that I wanted to mention today, because this comes up a lot also in the work that I do with people, is the idea of sexual orientation or sexual preference, sexual identity. Depending on someone's preferences, any of those terms can be used, but sexual orientation or romantic attraction, sexual attraction is entirely separate of someone's gender and sex, right? That is talking about who you are attracted to, who you are physically or romantically attracted to. So I want to make that really clear, that that I want to make sure that people know here that someone's gender identity, someone's gender, does not have anything to do with their sexual attraction or orientation. They are two very different things. A lot of times when someone comes out as transgender or gender non-binary, gender non-conforming, that question often comes up of, okay, well, what does this mean in terms of your sexual orientation? And the fact is, one does not affect the other. Who you are attracted to is who you're attracted to. And based on the sex of that person that you're attracted to, that is what shapes whatever label you put on that experience, whether you identify as heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual. So these are all entirely different things. So I know I went over a lot today, but I hope this was helpful to you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to comment on this video and let me know if there's anything you need further information about or would like some clarification. My hope is just to provide some really basic information to help folks understand these differences between gender and sex and sexual orientation. So I hope you all have a fabulous day today, and I will talk to you again soon. And if you want any further information, check out my website, www.transitionstherapyllc.com. All right, take care. Bye.